raise awareness about sexual exploitation and trafficking of girls, and it's called Stop Sex with Kids. It was a campaign to catch people's attention, and it did. And so then what we focused in on the phase 3 of it. What are we doing really well in all of these, and what could we do differently? So we focused the phase 3 on making sure that we're strengthening and we're filling up any gaps. So one of the gaps was a Rural Healing Lodge, recognizing that we had no way of at that time in phase 3, there was looking at the Alberta model, which is about rescue and detention of girls who are as the immediate response, and that is what Alberta does. And they wanted to do that in Manitoba, and we said, no, you're not, because we are not institutionalizing and criminalizing sexually exploited girls. So we built the Rural Healing Lodge, and we were motivated, one, by our elders that said we need to bring our children back to the land. Two, we were motivated because we said we can do secure by location and not secure by lock and key. And so we're still in that debate with our own province of trying to reduce that approach. Like, I agree that you need that approach sometimes. I've been doing this work for 20 years. Only twice have I had to ask for help because I can't, because she is in need of protection from herself. 20 years, thousands of young people I have seen, and I've only needed help twice. So it can't be the normal thing we do, is that we lock up girls under the guise of child protection because it violates her human rights. It's a quick fix for everybody else except her, and oftentimes will criminalize her because she will react, and she won't want to get caught again. So she'll just go underground, and we have proven that. So phase 3 was the birth of the Rural Healing Lodge and the whole debate around secure by location versus secure by lock and key. We are now into phase 4, which is kind of getting off the ground slower. Now we're crossing over into adults. So now we are doing the same thing, building the safety net, because oftentimes girls, they turn 18 and all of a sudden, they're a prostitute who is empowered, and that's how society sees her. And so there's even less resources for her when she turns 18. And if we were not able to identify her early enough, then she started at 13, somehow slipped through every crack, and now she's 18. And so there needs to be resources for adult women. And so that's essentially the strategy in the 4 phases and how we did it. And I think how you do it is important, because if you do too much too fast, not much will get done. And focusing in on young people, you will have everybody hands on deck. People do want to stop child abuse. And so you get more buy-in and motivation from the community when you are actually saving children. So some of the things with, you can get some ideas on the legislation and enforcement. There's if you go to Tricia's Trust online, download the pamphlet. I'm actually reading from the pamphlet, so you can look at, and they go into in-depth each of them. And so I'm going to highlight a few of them. So legislation and law enforcement, we still have the only provincial, oh no, I think you guys do too. You can probably verify this. The Child and Exploitation and Human Trafficking Act. So we've taken out of the federal government. We now have a provincial act. And in the provincial act in Manitoba, that's 2 things can happen. One is that if you are a victim as a result of sex trafficking, you can sue your trafficker. So you can get money from your trafficker, whereas you couldn't before. So I think you have that now. Okay, so the second thing, what am I drawing about? You can sue your trafficker. I'll get back to it. So the other thing that Manitoba did was we created the National Mandatory Reporting of Child Pornography, which again are two words that shouldn't go together, right? Like it's just, they shouldn't go to, so in Manitoba, we call them child abuse images. Because actually what you're seeing is a crime scene. Like it's crime scene, it's not pornography. And so that's another word you don't hear in Manitoba is child pornography, but for the purposes of today I mentioned it. We have, so those are some of the legislation and law enforcement. Like I said, we have a policing agency that has the rare counter sexual exploitation unit. That's all they do all day, all night, is look at ways in which they can go after the traffickers. They go after the men who are buying. They go and they work with the community at the grassroots level on outreach teams to help be part of the solution. And they are very conscientious and respectful of the role they play. And so if, like, there are such a thing as a nice cop in Winnipeg, and so we get, they've been very helpful with the work that we do. The continuum of services, we have training programs, we have places, we have safe places in which youth can go 24-hour. We have one, there's actually two 24-hour places for youth. We have education programs for youth that are very specific for sexually exploited and trafficked youth, operated by an organization so they can get their education. And so while they're staying at our safe house, they have the choice of going to the off-campus school, or they could go to this other school and they can get the credits that they need. And they're with other sexually exploited youth. And what we have identified as a community is that services for sexually exploited youth and services for sexually exploited and trafficked youth and adults have to be specialized. You can't put them in. So for example, we would not put a sexually exploited girl into a non-sexually exploited specialized resource in a home because lots of kids are mean, and once they find out that they call her the teen hooker, the slut, then she gets teased. She gets teased at school. She gets teased at any placement if she's in a placement. And so we recognize that in order for her to be successful, she needs to be surrounded by lots of people who are trained on how to help her and how to be a support to her. And so we recommend that as well. We know that some women's shelters will provide service to trafficked women. Some do, some don't. And we would advocate in Manitoba that we need actually a special shelter just for trafficked women, because the trauma is so different and so unique and so specialized that, and you do that totally different than from other kids in care. And then in some cases, you're actually protecting other kids in care, depending how entrenched she is at that time. So that is really important for the education programs. Another thing that's very unique, in fact, when we did the National Task Force report, we could not find another program like this anywhere in the world. It is a child and youth diploma program for adult women. And so a community organization in partnership with the college created a real safe place for survivors of sex trafficking to take the child and youth care diploma program, where they have wraparound services. So they have elders, they have trauma specialists, it's trauma informed, and it really creates a sisterhood of women who are now being trained to work in any one of the